If I had known what I was going to see that night, I would have quit before even leaving my house. It was a night shift at the hospital, and I had been assigned to the Alzheimer's ward. I was responsible for several patients, but one of them stood out. He was more agitated than the others. His name was Joao, and every time he called me into his room, he looked terrified. He said he could hear voices and that there was a man in black watching him. I'll admit, it started to scare me too. In his mind, all of it was real, and I kept imagining what it would feel like if I were in his shoes. It had to be terrifying to experience what he claimed to see. Even so, I did my best to calm him down and help him sleep. I held Joao's hands and told him everything was okay, that he could sleep peacefully, that he wasn't alone, and that he could call me anytime he needed. Joao eventually settled down and fell asleep. Once most of the patients are asleep, the night starts to feel painfully slow. It's like time moves backward. I went to a small room to get some medication when I heard a noise. It was strange because the room was small and the door was shut. I turned around but didn't see anything, so I kept gathering the meds. That's when I felt something chilling, like someone was standing right behind me. I turned quickly, but there was no one there. I was alone. I stepped out of the room to see if anyone else was around, but the hallway was completely empty, silent. I went back in and grabbed the rest of the medication. But as I was leaving the room, I nearly dropped everything I was holding. Outside, through the glass, there was a man dressed in black, and he had a terrifying smile on his face. I was so scared I started screaming, and another nurse came running to see what had happened. But by the time she got there, the man had vanished. I asked if she had seen the man in black. She looked confused and said, "What man? There's no one here." We searched the area, but he was gone. I rushed to Joao's room. He was already awake. I asked him what the man in black looked like, and if he had been smiling when he saw him. Joao looked at me terrified and asked, "How do you know?" Then he started screaming in panic. "Get me out of here. He's coming." Other nurses ran in to calm him down. That same night, I was transferred to a different ward. The next day, I texted my boss and told him everything. I explained that the experience had traumatized me and that I couldn't work at that hospital anymore. He understood and arranged a transfer to another hospital. But what happened that night? The presence, the fixed stare, that horrifying smile. It was real. It was one of those supernatural experiences that stay with you forever. And honestly, I hope I never see anything like that again. I didn't know what was happening to me, but I could feel something was terribly wrong. A deep, burning pain spread through my body, like something was eating me from the inside. My muscles ached, my head felt heavy, and a constant weakness took over. Every movement was hard. Even sitting up felt impossible. The nausea was relentless. I couldn't eat, couldn't drink, couldn't rest. At first, I thought it was something temporary, but when the hallucination started, I knew I was dealing with something far more serious. My husband rushed me to hospital, and soon after I arrived, I was given medication. The doctor told me that if I had waited any longer, the effects could have been severe, maybe even fatal. I was admitted right away. My husband had to leave shortly after, since he had to work early the next morning. It was alone in that cold, silent hospital room that things really started to get terrifying. Around 2 a.m., I heard someone whisper my name. I thought it was the meds, but the voice sounded so real, so close, and the room was empty. Even scared, I tried to sleep, but I had the clear sensation that someone was there, watching. When I looked at the chair beside my bed, I saw a shadow. I froze. The figure didn't move. It just stared at me. I blinked, and it was gone. The next few nights, I kept hearing footsteps in the hallway, faint knocks at the door, and always the same whisper. But every time I checked, there was no one there. Still, the feeling that someone was watching me never left. One night, I had a strange dream. But what scared me most was that the dream happened in the exact same room I was in. In the dream, a man stood in the doorway. He was wearing hospital clothes. He just stared at me. Then, slowly, he walked over my bed, placed a hand on my head, and said, "I never left this place." His voice was low, like it echoed inside my mind. Then he repeated, "This place doesn't let anyone leave." I woke up gasping, heart racing, feeling like something was still in the room. I looked around, and the chair, the one where I saw the shadow, was closer to my bed than before. I was sure it had been against the wall. When I lay down, it was still early morning. Despite the fear, I managed to fall back asleep. The next day, I told one of the nurses about the dream. She paused for a few seconds and then said something that chilled me to the bone. "That's strange. Last night, a man came by saying he was your relative." "What?" I asked, confused. "He said he was your cousin. Wanted to know how you were doing. He stood right there for a few minutes, then left. But I don't have any cousins who live nearby." She looked puzzled by my answer and said, "That's odd, but how did he know your name?" She walked out of the room, and I just sat there thinking about how strange it all was. Later that day, an older nurse, someone who'd worked at the hospital for years, came into my room and told me that room had a history. According to her, years ago, a patient had disappeared from that very room. He was admitted with severe infection and would often have night delusions, saying he heard voices. One night, he vanished. No explanation. Never found. I told her about the dream, about what I'd heard, what I'd seen, even about the man who had come to visit me. She said the antibiotics might have caused hallucinations. That could explain the voices and visions. But it didn't explain the fact that multiple nurses had seen the man, that he knew my name, and that he went straight to my room. Those questions were still unanswered. I called my husband and told him everything. Well, not everything. I didn't mention the dream or the shadow or the chair that had moved. I didn't know what was real anymore. But one thing I did know, something was very wrong with that hospital. The empty hallways, the noises that came from nowhere, the constant cold. It felt like someone or something had never left that place. And maybe it didn't want me to leave either. I was discharged the following week. But even now, at exactly 2 a.m., I still wake up with the feeling that someone is watching me.